Yeah, I mean, what an honour to follow Carrie there. I was nearly in tears before I even got to my speech. So I liked her links there with the being the, you know, the ordinary person's story, not all the statistics, you know, to be able for her to bear her heart and share that. And I think for me, you know, this title today of this meeting, The Agony of Kashmiris, I think is indeed a really fitting title. And because we're talking about the common people of the world here, I think that agony goes beyond the Kashmiris, the Kashmiri diaspora, and to people where Carrie talked there about the collective consciousness of people, and that we're all here as human beings, you know, trying to make the world peaceful, make it a better place. And, you know, it is agonizing that the Kashmiris are suffering in the way that there is suffering, in the exact way that she described there. Now, I haven't, because I've arrived late, I haven't heard the speaker, so I apologise if I repeat anything, but I guess because lots been discussed, I can be brief. So, I mean, I'm in Scotland and I've become aware of the Kashmir issue after hearing about the lockdown in August the 5th, 2019. And on a very basic human level, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So again, in some ways, I can't believe that here we are celebrating, marking 72 years of international human rights when we have the tragedy of Kashmir on our hands. The UK government essentially divvying the land up, dividing it, walking it away, and then leaving these horrendous crimes since then. India, you know, the way they've gone in and just monopolized the evidence and the research, and, you know, the stories we've just heard there of the abuses, the crimes, you know, the mass rapes, the torture, that's all there. I mean, we've been hearing over the last couple of days, haven't we, of about a 15-year-old ring set up by India that's infiltrated internationally, where they've exposed their fake stories, spreading their lies. So those links there with Nazism and Germany, and a collective consciousness of the world, where we need to start standing up and making this as a big issue, I mean, you know, to support the Kashmiris and link together. And so for me, my work comes at this from a common person perspective. And I've essentially been trying to create links with as many people as I can across the Kashmiri diaspora and Kashmiris to raise their voices louder where they've been stopped from tweeting on Facebook, even in the streets, the reporters silenced, everything, those voices. It's getting worse since the lockdown. In many ways, the situation's getting worse. And with COVID, the lockdown within a lockdown, and the economy and people are continuing to suffer, and not enough is being done for them on the outside with regards to our world leaders and the, you know, the UN resolutions and human rights articles and charters. They're not being met. So for me, with all this, you know, I look at where we've been, you know, what's brought us to this stage and where are we now and what is it that we can do about it. So we've learned a lot, you know, and I think it's looking at the Kashmiris working together, seeking their unity. I think self-determination is the one thing that can draw everybody together and bind everybody together. So, you know, I'm hoping within my work to build those strengths, take those links forward, and put in, you know, the people, putting the pressure on our governments, looking for the support from the human rights organizations, all the people with positions of power and in the United Nations that can help us to achieve that, get a humanitarian envoy aid into Indian occupied Kashmir. Really, it needs to be highlighted, you know, human rights needs to be put over economy, and everybody, as much as we can everywhere, needs to speak up and make this a united effort. And we have to keep bashing through. And just as Carrie finished in there, is having that belief that we can be successful here, that we can achieve this. Sometimes, you know, that agony transpires into the agony of nothing ever fixed, nothing ever getting solved. And so the fight for self-determination, by exposing all the human rights atrocities and crimes that have occurred, you know, and exposing Modi and the Indian BJP government and the effects that he's having, you know, not only on Kashmir, but with his own country. We can all see, you know, that he's exposing himself, as it were. So I don't know, I just Yeah, I mean, it's beyond belief, to be honest. I can't sometimes believe that this is actually happening. It's pure evil. And there's a simple solution, and that's the United Nations to send in their peacekeeping army. The ceasefire line, where is that a ceasefire? The brutalities on the border are just, again, I can't understand that this goes on. Sometimes I cannot get my head around it. And so to put an end to all those atrocities, you know, it's urging people, the United Nations, to get in there with their peacekeeping army and give Kashmiris their right for self-determination. And we would see so much suffering and pain and agony eased. And so, yeah, it's quite, it's 72 years of human rights, and this is what we're facing today. And we know it's not just within Kashmir, it's a global issue. And if we could look at the mechanics that it needs to take to solve the Kashmir issue, then hopefully we could see a different world and see the mechanics, you know, raise out elsewhere. So keeping it brief and stopping there, really. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Claire, for your intervention.